The Starlight Echoes Chapter 8 The Ghost of the Machine. The success of the first project hadn't just satisfied Shadow's curiosity, it had unlocked a hunger. Now that he understood the language of the AMV, he spent his late nights scouring the digital archives Tails had opened for him. He wasn't looking for action anymore. He was looking for something that captured the ache he still felt in the quiet moments, the part of him that still remembered the smell of the sterile base, and the sound of a bullet that was never meant for him. It was nearly 2 a.m. when the algorithm surfaced a track he hadn't heard yet. The title was simple, Even in Death. Shadow pressed play. The song didn't start with a bang. It started with a haunting music box melody, low, ghostly, and shimmering with a deep sense of longing. Then came the lyrics. Shadow's hand froze on the mouse. He leaned back into the charcoal padding of his crescent moon bed, the blue light of the monitor casting long, sharp shadows across his quills. He didn't blink. The song spoke of a love so fierce it transcended the grave, a promise to stay connected even when the world said it was over. Shadow felt a strange, cold prickle at the back of his neck. He wasn't thinking about a dictionary definition of mortality. He was thinking about Maria. He was thinking about the way she had looked at the stars 50 years ago, and how he still saw her every time he looked at the ceiling of his room.
It is a vow,
Shadow whispered into the empty attic. He didn't wake the others. He didn't zoom downstairs to tell Sonic. Instead, he opened his editing software. He began to pull clips from Atlantis again, but this time he focused on the moments of sacrifice, the scenes where the light faded, only to be held onto by those left behind. He worked with a feverish, quiet intensity. He synced the music box intro to a shot of the glow-in-the-dark stars fading into the morning light. He matched the heavy, sorrowful chorus to the moment Kita was taken by the crystal, her eyes glowing with a power she couldn't control. But then, he did something different. He added a single grainy frame he had captured with Tails' camera earlier that day. A shot of a single pressed flower he had kept in a small glass jar on his nightstand, a wildflower from the lake. The song reached its crescendo, the piano weeping alongside the heavy guitars, and Shadow felt a weight lift from his chest. He wasn't obsessing over the past, he was honoring it. He was realizing that being the ultimate life form didn't mean he had to forget. It meant he was the one who could remember the longest. When the final note faded out, Shadow didn't export the video. He just sat there listening to the silence of the house. He looked at the poster Sonic had put up, then up at his stars.
I see you still,
he murmured, his voice finally shedding the last remnants of the soldier's mask. He saved the project under a file named The Promise. He didn't need a crowd to see this one. It was a private conversation between an alien boy and the girl who had shown him that the light still shines, even when the star is gone. He climbed back into his bed, pulling the silver-threaded blanket up to his chin. As he closed his eyes, the haunting melody of Even in Death acted as a guardian for his dreams. He wasn't alone in the dark anymore. He had a soundtrack. Shadow has found the song that truly speaks to his past. The morning light was just beginning to cut through the attic windows, turning the dust motes into tiny floating sparks. Shadow had finally succumbed to sleep, draped sideways across his crescent moon bed with one hand still resting near the keyboard of the rendering unit. Sonic and Tails crept up the stairs, whispered arguments about who ate the last of the cereal, dying out as they saw the dark hedgehog.
Whoa, he pulled an all-nighter,
Sonic whispered, glancing at the glowing monitor.
The editor era is hitting him hard.
Tails hovered over to the desk, his eyes widening as he saw the file name sitting on the desktop, The Promise.
He finished another one. He didn't even wait for me to help with the color grading.
Curiosity got the better of them. Sonic tapped the spacebar and the speakers, properly calibrated and crisp, began to breathe out the ghostly music box intro of Even in Death. As the images flickered to life, the atmosphere in the attic shifted. This wasn't the high-energy, cool tribute Shadow had made before. This was raw. The way the cuts matched the heartbeat of the piano, focusing on the moments where characters reached out for hands that weren't there anymore, made Sonic's throat go dry. When the grainy shot of the single wildflower appeared, the one Shadow had found at the lake, Tails let out a small shaky breath.
He's not just making a video. He's talking to her. To Maria.
Sonic stood perfectly still, his green eyes fixed on the silhouette of Shadow at the end of the video. He thought about the 10 years he'd spent in a cave, watching the world through a window, and how much it had hurt to be alone. But seeing how Shadow carried a 50-year-old grief with the same intensity as if it happened yesterday, it hit him differently.
He doesn't just remember her.
Sonic said softly, looking over at his sleeping brother.
He's still protecting her, even now.
Knuckles reached the top of the stairs just as the final, haunting note of the song faded into silence. He didn't say a word. He looked at the screen, then at the small pressed flower on Shadow's nightstand. For a warrior who valued legacy and the spirits of the ancestors, the weight of the video was unmistakable.
His heart is a fortress of memory.
Knuckles rumbled, his voice unusually gentle.
He carries a ghost as if she were a living queen. It is a heavy burden for one so young.
Shadow's ears twitched. He shifted on the bed, his crimson eyes blinking open. He saw the three of them standing there, the glow of the promise file still reflected in their eyes. For a second the old Shadow, the soldier, flashed in his gaze a flicker of defensive tension. But then he looked at the screen and then at the way Sonic was looking at him. Not with pity but with a deep, quiet understanding.
You saw it.
Shadow said, his voice raspy from sleep. He didn't sound embarrassed. He just sounded tired.
Yes, we did.
Sonic said, walking over and sitting on the edge of the moon bed.
It was incredible, Shadow. Seriously, I didn't know a song could feel like that.
Shadow sat up, pulling the silver-threaded blanket around his shoulders.
The music. It gives the memory a place to live so it does not have to stay only in my head. It makes the promise feel less like a weight and more like a melody.
We're here, Shadow.
Tails said, landing on the bed next to them.
You don't have to carry the whole song by yourself.
Shadow looked at his brothers, the blue, the red, and the yellow, and for the first time the ghostly feeling of the song didn't feel so lonely. He reached out and gave the promise file a final lingering look before closing the window.
Thank you.
Shadow said, his voice warm and steady.
But I believe I am ready for breakfast, and perhaps something with a slightly higher tempo.
The heavy, emotional air of the attic was suddenly punctured by Sonic jumping to his feet, his quills practically vibrating with restless energy.
Okay, enough with the tear-jerkers.
Sonic declared, pointing a gloved finger at the skylight.
The sun is out, the grass is wet, and you, Mr. Ultimate Gloom and Doom, are officially it.
Shadow blinked, his somber expression momentarily replaced by a look of sheer confusion.
I am what?
It, tag, the ancient sport of running away from your problems at Mach 1.
Sonic didn't wait for an answer. He spun into a blue blur, zoomed out the attic window and shouted from the backyard below.
Catch me if you can, slow-mo.
Shadow looked at Tails and Knuckles. Tails was already hovering toward the window, grinning.
He's right, Shadow. High-speed cardio is the best way to clear the cache.
Knuckles pounded his fists together, a predatory smirk on his face.
I shall participate, but I do not tag. I conquer the space between us.
Shadow felt a spark of his old competitive fire ignite. He stood up, the silver-threaded blanket falling away as he stepped toward the window. He looked down at the green expanse of the backyard, where Sonic was currently doing the floss, on top of the picnic table to provoke him.
Very well.
Shadow murmured. He didn't use his air skates to blast out. He simply dropped, landing in a perfect three-point crouch that sent a small shockwave through the damp grass.
The ultimate life form does not lose at games of pursuit.
What followed was a chaotic, neon-streaked blur of motion. Sonic was a zigzag of blue, banking off the oak trees and sliding under the porch. Knuckles was a red wrecking ball, choosing the shortest distance between 2 points, even if that point was a solid wooden fence, which survived barely. Tails acted as the eye in the sky, dropping water balloons he'd scavenged from the garage to create tactical hazards. Shadow found himself moving with a fluidity he hadn't felt in years. He wasn't dodging bullets, He was dodging a laughing hedgehog. He wasn't chasing a target. He was chasing a brother. He lunged for Sonic, his hand missing the blue quills by an inch.
You are evasive, Hedgehog.
That's the point, Shadow. Use your boost.
Shadow did. He ignited his skates, the orange jets hissing against the wet grass. He felt the wind whip past his ears, the scent of pine and damp earth filling his lungs. For a moment, he wasn't the boy who saw ghosts. He was the boy who saw the world at 700 miles per hour. He finally cornered Sonic near the tool shed. With a surge of speed, Shadow reached out and tapped Sonic's shoulder with a firm, triumphant palm.
Tag.
Shadow said, a genuine breathless laugh breaking through his chest.
You are now it.
Sonic skidded to a stop, his chest heaving as he grinned back.
There he is. See? Hard to feel like a gothic poet when you're busy not hitting a tree, right?
Knuckles came sliding into them like a bowling ball, knocking them both into a pile of leaves.
Victory. We have successfully engaged in the ritual of the chase.
Shadow sat up in the leaves, his quills messy and his gloves covered in grass stains. He looked at the three of them, his team, his pack, his brothers. The promise file was still in the attic, safe and honored, but down here in the mud and the sunlight, the world felt loud, messy, and wonderfully alive.
I believe
Shadow said, brushing a leaf off his nose.
that I prefer this tempo, for now.
The high-speed chase in the yard eventually tapered off into a comfortable, winded silence. The three hedgehogs and one echidna lay scattered across the damp grass, their chests heaving in synchronized rhythm. Shadow stayed flat on his back, staring up through the shifting canopy of the oak trees at the patches of brilliant blue sky.
Okay.
Sonic panted, wiping a streak of mud from his forehead.
New rule. Shadow isn't allowed to use his air skates during tag if I'm not allowed to use my blue blur shortcut through the flower beds. Mom is gonna kill us for the petunias.
Shadow didn't answer immediately. He was watching a single white cloud drift lazily overhead.
The friction of the grass. It is different from the metal floors of the base. It offers a resistance that feels honest.
Knuckles sat up, shaking a stray twig out of his quills.
The earth does not lie, Shadow. It demands your strength and gives you its stability in return. Though I must admit, your Chaos Teleporter maneuver is a dishonorable way to avoid attack.
It's called strategy, Knuckles.
Shadow countered, a small, playful smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. They eventually picked themselves up and trekked back toward the house. As they reached the porch, Shadow stopped at the outdoor spigot. He looked at his white gloves, once pristine, now stained with the green of the grass and the brown of the Green Hills soil. He didn't look annoyed. He looked at the stains as if they were badges of honor.
Hey, Sonic.
Shadow called out as the blue hedgehog reached for the door handle.
Yeah, Shads?
The bucket list item, the one about the bar fight.
Shadow said, his voice dropping into that thoughtful, sincere tone again.
I believe we can consider it checked off. Though the opponent was a pile of leaves and a very fast hedgehog, the combat was satisfactory.
Sonic laughed, a bright, genuine sound that echoed off the siding of the house.
I'll take it. We'll call it the Great Backyard Brawl. I'll even let you have the win since you're the one who ended up with the most mud.
Shadow looked down at the mud on his shoes, then back at the door where he could hear Maddie humming in the kitchen and the smell of fresh laundry drifting through the vents. He realized that the promise he had made to Maria wasn't just about remembering the end. It was about actually starting the beginning she had wanted for him. He turned the handle on the spigot, letting the cold water wash over his gloves. The mud swirled away, disappearing into the earth, leaving him clean and ready for whatever the next chapter held.
I am ready to go inside.
Shadow said, his voice firm and happy.
I believe it is almost time for the sandwich ritual.
Shadow didn't follow the others inside immediately. Instead, he stayed on the porch, his eyes fixated on the muddy water swirling down the drain. He pulled his gloves off, exposing his dark, furred hands to the cool air, and began to wring them out with a rhythmic, mechanical focus.
You're thinking about the song again, aren't you?
Shadow didn't have to look up to know it was Tom. The sheriff had stepped out onto the porch, leaning against the railing with a quiet, observant air. He wasn't holding a badge or a weapon. He was just holding a mug of coffee, watching the horizon.
The singer spoke of a shadow that remains.
Shadow said, his voice low.
I have spent my life being that shadow, a reflection of a past that no longer exists. I wonder if I am the one haunting this world, or if the world is haunting me.
Tom took a slow sip of his coffee.
Well, kid, speaking as someone who deals with hauntings of the more human variety every day, I think it's neither. I think you're just a lighthouse.
Shadow looked up, his brow furrowing.
A lighthouse?
A lighthouse stands still in the storm, right?
Tom gestured with his mug toward the trees.
It remembers where the rocks are so others don't hit them, but it's also there to show people the way home. You remember Maria. You remember the base. That's your light. It's not a haunting, Shadow. It's a guide.
Shadow looked at the horizon, where the Green Hills Mountains met the sky. For 50 years he had seen his memory as a prison, a cold static loop of a single tragic moment. But Tom's words shifted the perspective. If he was a lighthouse, then the memory wasn't a weight to be dropped. It was a flame to be tended.
A lighthouse.
Shadow repeated softly. He liked the logic of it. It was structural, functional. It gave his grief a purpose that wasn't just sorrow.
And hey,
Tom added, reaching out and giving Shadow's shoulder a firm grounding squeeze.
even lighthouses need a break. The lamp doesn't have to be on 24/7. Sometimes it's okay to just be a building on a hill, enjoying the view.
Shadow let out a long, shaky breath, one that felt like it had been held in for half a century. He looked at Tom, and for the first time he didn't see the man who looked like Walters. He saw the man who had given him a room with stars.
Thank you, Dad.
Shadow whispered. The word was quiet, almost lost to the wind, but Tom heard it. A small, surprised smile touched the sheriff's face, and he nodded once, his eyes reflecting a deep paternal pride.
Anytime, Shadow. Now get inside. Maddie's got the sandwich ritual at stage 4, and if you aren't there to claim your share, Knuckles is going to eat the crusts off yours too.
Shadow nodded, a faint, genuine smile playing on his lips. He picked up his clean gloves and stepped through the door, leaving the mud and the shadows behind. The lighthouse was still standing, but for the first time the storm was finally over.